Hello there ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul TX141 Walsh, welcoming you to an all new World of Warships gameplay today on our channel. In this episode I'm sailing out in the Tier X German premium heavy cruiser known as the Prinz Eugen once more. And the purpose of today's video will be a continuation of our theme of last week's video, link available in the top right corner of your screen as displayed now, where we focused on the Prinz Eugen post-bath, i.e. after she received the damage repair party consumable. And in this gameplay we're going to be focusing on the concept I think the ship now embodies rather well, and that is a sense of confidence. Whereas previously she felt a little bit more relegated to longer range engagements with her inability to heal the damage she takes, now she has the ability to heal some of that damage and can therefore be a little bit more adventurous and play within the medium ranges when you time it right. And this tier 10 game I feel is a brilliant example of this, simply because we have to make a number of calls of knowing when to attack and when to go on the defensive or just wait up a little bit. So we'll begin by noting that as we make our way towards Objective Alpha, we're going to be supporting our friendly Yugumo. Now this is standard cruiser versus destroyer play, the idea being that cruisers will support their destroyers as they push in towards objectives by conferring decent gunpowder, alternatively a number of consumables such as radar. Now we do not have the pleasure of radar, but we do have a rather powerful hydroacoustic search which is able to spot torpedoes out to 3.84 kilometers and enemy ships out to 5.58 kilometers. We'll come back to that in particular a little bit later. And as we support our friendly Yugumo, we can see that we've also got our Richelieu following close behind, i.e. a French battleship that's going to be rather fast, and I believe it also gets the speed boost consumable, but don't quote me on that. In making our way towards the objective, we have our eyes on two prizes. The first and most obvious one is the enemy destroyer or destroyers that try to take Alpha, but more importantly it's the enemy cruisers, and one most notable, their tier 10 British light cruiser, that being the Minotaur. Because if we're able to take that out, that's a huge piece off the chessboard for our friendly destroyers and myself, because that ship with 6-inch guns can absolutely shred my ship if it catches me at close to medium range, out to say 10 kilometers on a full broadside, especially with its rapid fire rate. So making our way towards the objective, what I'm trying to do right now is think, how is this going to play out? I know an enemy destroyer is most likely going to push into it rather quickly, simply because that's what destroyers typically do on a map such as Shatter. They'll push the objectives early on and try to gain an advantage positionally over their foes, i.e. the enemy destroyers. And we can see our Yugumo is torpedoing Objective Alpha, trying to anticipate the path of enemy ships. We've got a Udaloy and the enemy team charging towards Bravo, and we can see over time that the enemy team's main push is coming through Objective Charlie, and our team's main push is going for Objective Charlie. So this is going to come down to low number of ships and a high amount of tactical play here. And with the enemy Yugumo spotted by our friendly Yugumo, we throw in a salvo and pick up a nice amount of damage. Now with that, what we can instantly say is psychologically that Yugumo on the enemy team will be wounded, in that they will not want to hold that position as they do not have the health anymore to sacrifice being spotted once more and throw away even more health. So instead they'll need to pull back. And in return the enemy Minotaur has given its position away, firing very briefly at us, and with that knowledge now in our hands, it means we can get to work on trying to take out that very important cruiser for the enemy team. We've also noted an Alsace pushing its way down here from the north, and we reckon there may be one or two more enemy ships coming this way, based on the fact that not all of the enemy fleet has been spotted right now, although the enemy Udaloy has been taken out on Bravo already, which means our destroyers in the centre may be freed up to support us over this side over time. Now we can see the enemy North Carolina has also been spotted here, so we've got two enemy battleships which could punish us if we give too much broadside, and with the Minotaur island hugging off to the western side of the objective, what I intend to do now is actually pull slightly towards the southeast of the objective, because I want to open up my firing angle on the Minotaur but also the enemy battleships. Now this is of course risky because I'm exposing a broadside to do this, but having a landmass between myself and the three enemy ships, either the two battleships and the light cruiser at the moment, I feel very confident I can pull this off without being punished too heavily. As the enemy battleship, the Alsace, is now spotted, but they haven't fired as yet. And with the Yugumo being respotted, we throw our salvo in towards them. And whilst it is armour piercing and it all bounces, that wasn't important. The fact we hit them and reset their capture progress was the most important, because now psychologically that Yugumo player has to spend more time in the objective, and they're thinking, right, I'm not free to play the game I want to play at the moment. I'm forced to sit in the objective longer and commit for longer. So positionally, they're held to a point, but psychologically they're now starting to perhaps get frustrated at the fact they just can't get this objective out of the way and do what they want to do, i.e. operate perhaps in open water with torpedoes and concealment. Next, North Carolina is going to full broadside. As we can see, the armour piercing shells from our 8-inch guns do absolute wonders to broadside battleships such as the North Carolina, the 12k salvo there. And we can see that the Minotaur has just been spotted, and we're going to punish that broadside whilst it's revealed to us. Going in with our salvo, we pick up a very healthy 21,000 damage with 3 Citadel hits, Citadel in for 5,900 per shell. We accidentally bump into our Reachy at this point because we're so heavily focused on getting up the follow-on shot on the Minotaur. Let's hope it hits. There we go, they're out of the game, and that means now our Yuguma can operate with greater freedom because that key threat's out the way, and I can start to think about pushing these enemy battleships, or at least pushing the Yuguma out of the objective, if not killing them outright. And that's going to be my focus now. How can I threaten that Yuguma and get them out of the game? Well, step 1. They're hiding behind the landmass on the southern tip of Objective Alpha, which means they're stuck there, because they must be aware that the destroyers on Bravo could potentially be heading this way, i.e. our friendly destroyers, the Gearing and the Z-46. We've got the Reachy and the Yuguma coming in from the west or the southwest, so it means we can now push up from the south and form a pincer on 3 paths. In the meantime, I'm setting myself up to be covered against the 2 enemy battleships, because they may decide to shoot at me, but now they can't because there's a landmass in the way, although some secondaries were thrown my way briefly. I've got high explosive loaded, and I'm going to throw down some 6km range torpedoes. You get 2 triple sets per side in the Prinz Eugen. Those are just simply to prevent the Yuguma from rushing me. But in return, opening fire with high explosive, we take off 5,000 health, and most importantly, we take out a set of torpedo tubes temporarily. And that means the Yuguma, who is potentially reloading their torpedoes, has only had the ability to fire 1 set at us, meaning they are not able to saturate the water with torpedoes, and it means we can dodge the torpedoes very easily by comparison with what could have been. We go to finish off the Yuguma at this point, taking some armor piercing damage from the enemy Alsace, not too much, as we're quite well angled in, and we take the Yuguma out of the game for another kill. And so at this point I'm taking a bit of fire off the enemy Alsace, and their attention's on me, and so is that of the North Carolina, so I decide, you know what, I'm going to make my way back towards the landmass I used as cover against those guys originally, and just hide my ship. And this is whilst my hill is finishing, and it just gives me some time to think about when am I going to make my next push. Because I'm in no rush at this point. We've got 3 destroyers surrounding 2 battleships, plus a Reachy coming up from the south, and myself coming up from the south. These battleships are in a trap. We've also got our North Carolina, by the looks of things, firing some very long range shells from our spawn in the south. Now I've got my armor piercing loaded because I can see that the Alsace is reversing as they beach themselves, and in doing so they're exposing a broadside. And I feel at this point, right, it's time to push forward because we've got them surrounded on multiple sides. Our Reachy is pushing forward as well, so they'll garner some attention onto their ship, and it means I can get off at least 1 salvo before I become targeted, using the priority target indicator in the top right of the centre of the screen in order to know when I'm being targeted. And I'm thinking at this point that it's got to be the North Carolina, and that's why I'm angling in such a way against them, and I was correct in that. And I'm waiting for that number to switch to 2 because now I know the Alsace is most likely targeting me. Because I wouldn't say it's going to be see a ship in the middle of the map. We take some fire from the Alsace, but nothing major, and we start to angle between the 2 ships, pointing our bow towards the North Carolina primarily and angling off the Alsace, who's now focusing us. Getting ready for the next set of shells. Just waiting for those shells to come in at this point. Our teammates are also lobbing in shells as we start to turn. What we're realising is it can't be the Alsace actually angling their guns towards us, it must be the North Carolina, what of the fact the Alsace is turned away and their guns are mounted towards the front of the ship. So as we angle towards the North Carolina, we dodge the incoming fire by snapping back, or at least the majority of the incoming fire. And now we're going to throw some armor piercing at their angled broadside whilst they're still exposed to us. But we're not going to pursue the North Carolina because our destroyers can finish them off, they've got it surrounded, they can toss torpedoes on all sides. Instead, I'm going to make sure we finish off capturing Alpha, and then start to make my way towards Bravo, because there's still a number of enemy ships in the game. Now what you'll note here is I've finished off another hill, and I've got a lot of health back. I'm back up to 32,766. But I'm in no rush to push Bravo, and this is where we come to the concept of tempering one's confidence and knowing when to attack. Victory loves preparation is a saying that I adhere to in most of my life, and you're going to see it here. I want to be ready to attack Bravo. So instead, I'm just biding my time, let my hydroacoustic search finish off in terms of reloading, get the hill practically reloaded, and I'll help finish off the North Carolina if I can. Landing another successful penetration shell, nothing too major there, but they're pretty much a goner, so we're not going to get this kill most likely, it'll probably be our teammates. Though we'll see if we can pick it off, but no, it goes to our gearing, well done to them. Now look at the bottom of our screen, we can see we've got our hydroacoustic ready, we've got ample time left on our catapult fighter that doubles up as a spotter for us in terms of finding enemy ships that have got poor detectability by air. and we're getting ready our hill. It's only 30 seconds away. And with it only being 30 seconds away, I decided, you know what, I'm going to turn on the hydro and just creep at, say, quarter speed, half speed towards Bravo. Because we've got destroyers pushing this way as well, let's time it so that way we push at the same time as our St. Louis, who is coming in from the southeast of the objective. We're all going to converge on a single point. Because whilst our team does have the numerical advantage, we've got a good number of ships on our team that have taken considerable damage, such as our Yuguma, our Z46, and we all want to be there ready to push together. And this is going to work out very nicely, because as we come into the objective, the enemy Ibuki is spotted, and we're spotted in return. It's most likely them, or it could be the Z46, we're not 100% sure. As the Ibuki goes to give a little bit of broadside to us, we throw a salvo down, and they're focusing on us. Now what's important here is that I decided not to switch to high explosive, because I'm actually going to start playing mind games with the Ibuki. You'll note they're not given a full broadside, and if they're not given a full broadside but an angled one, I will struggle to penetrate them. Now in return, what this means is the Ibuki is so focused on giving an angle towards myself, it means that if they're going to keep angling towards myself, they're going to expose their broadside to our St. Louis down in the southeast. They're going to expose themselves to potential angles of the torpedoes coming charging in on all sides of the ship. So I don't actually have to fire my guns at this point. I can just sit here and take this damage, knowing I can heal the high explosive and resultant fire damage if any fires are set, and in return that Ibuki is just susceptible to a load of torpedoes coming in. Wham! And they're now out the game, and it means I can head into Bravo and take it with my teammates. It's not as though I actually had to fire a shot effectively in order to get that result to happen, bar the opening salvo or two. And creeping into the objective at this point, the game is pretty much wrapped up. But again, I'm going to take my time taking this objective, just in case the Curve, for example, decides to push this way, or then North Carolina decides to turn from the very eastern border of the map in towards the objectives and say we lost our St. Louis and also our Richelieu, in the fact that I'll be ready with all my consumables available to tank some damage and deal damage back. And it's all about tempering one's engagements, not rushing into engagements per se, but instead realising, right, you're in a good state to make a push here, you're not in a good state to make a push here. Once you analyse that successfully, you'll find that your survivability increases dramatically. And it doesn't just apply to the Prinz Eugen, this applies to most ships in the game, if not all ships, knowing when to push in, when you've got all your resources ready, or when you'll have your resources ready by the time you get to the main part of your push. But in terms of wrapping this game up, with now 2 assisted caps to our name, we're just going to keep sprinkling shots on the curve first, noting that we do have a slightly improved fire rate, whatever our inclusion of the Adrenaline Rush captain skill at tier 2, means that our reload's heading towards 12 seconds, and as they give the broadside, we're switching back to armor piercing to try and punish them. But whenever they decide to angle, we'll just be sitting on high explosive shells, and really that wraps it up. It's worth noting that our fire chance of high explosive is 15%. I believe we also have the Demolition Expert crew skill, although don't quote me on that, captain skill I should say. And this is going to bring the game to its end, so let's just watch it play out. A rather short and sweet game in the end. We can see that our battle performance amounted to a damage output of 107,637 HP of damage. Coming on to the team score, we can see we topped our team in terms of base experience earned, picking up 2,511. Our primary role in this match was to support the push on Objective Alpha, particularly making sure that the life of our friendly Yugumo was a pleasant one compared to the life of the enemy Yugumo that pushed that objective. We had to try and make their life as hard as possible, in terms of harassing them whenever they were spotted, trying to take the objective, and subsequently when they tried to pull out of the objective, surrounded on all sides, delivering the killing blow. On top of that, we also made a point of trying to eliminate the enemy Minotaur as soon as possible, and we're rather fortunate to catch them on the broadside twice, being able to take them out of the game very rapidly. With that, once the objective had been taken, as we pushed our way up against the 2 enemy battleships that remained at the objective, the Alsace and North Carolina, we turned our attention towards Objective Bravo and converged on the objective alongside a good number of our teammates to shut the enemy team out of the game for good. As for our detailed report, we have one key item to note here, and that is our shell choice. We can see that the majority of our main battery damage was caused using armour piercing shells. We got into a good enough range in order to be able to try and get the most out of our armour piercing, but every so often we did switch back to our high explosive in situations where it was going to be more advantageous to fire high explosive, such as killing off the enemy Yugumo, or alternatively in throwing a couple of sporadic salvos towards the enemy Kurfürst right at the end when they were too angled to be able to be penetrated for our armour piercing shells. But in general, if we can get the armour piercing to work in the Prinz Eugen, it's going to yield rather effective results compared to perhaps what some would say would be the lackluster high explosive, where its maximum damage of 2500 and the relatively low fire chance, which we buffed to 15% here for the usage of Demolition Expert. And finally, coming on to our credits and experience earned, we can see that after additions and deductions, we walked away with 522,748 silver credits and 28,961 commander experience. To conclude, hopefully today I've demonstrated that the buff to the Prinz Eugen in terms of her being given the damage repair party consumable means that she's a ship that even in tier 10 games no longer needs to sit in the backline and continuously throw out shells, but instead she can push forward more closely with her friendly destroyers and support them as they push towards objectives or key points on the map. And by being close behind her destroyers, it means that she's able to deal considerable damage to the enemy destroyers that are spotted, or more well concealed enemy cruisers that push really close to the front line. The example today being the enemy Minotaur that we crippled with multiple Citadel hits. The return of this, of course, is that you need to know when to time your pushes and your subsequent retreats, and not over-rely on the hill consumable to get you out of every situation. You still need the awareness as a captain of this ship to know when to pull back because the odds are not favourable and you will not be able to soak up too much damage in return. But when we go for those final pushes into objectives and have our hydroacoustic search and our heal ready, we'll feel a little bit more unstoppable simply because we can tank a good amount of damage and we can spot the incoming torpedoes and enemy ships that are close by behind land masses and have no surprises waiting for us. We'll be ready to knock down the door and take the objective alongside our teammates. And that's what today's game was all about. The ability when you see an objective to know that it's one that you can contest with confidence. And so I've been TX141, and if you have enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, comment or subscribe for future World of Warships videos on my channel. And if you are looking to get into this game today, ladies and gentlemen, I strongly recommend it. Feel free to use the link in the description of this video to sign up for free. But with that, as always, take care and fair seas.